What's good, YouTubers and YouTubettes? This is JBsports back again with another one. Got some big news from across the pond in the UK as former IBF welterweight champion Kell Brook has decided to hang up his gloves. After discussing it with his parents and family, he has decided to call it a career. He says his mom is relieved and that boxing is a brutal sport. It's a sport that you could legally kill someone. And he's just glad that he's able to walk away from the sport with all his faculties. Now, he gave a strong shout out, and he gave props to his longtime trainer, Dominique Ingle, and his dad, Brendan Ingle, from rescuing him from a troubled lifestyle as a youth, where he was doing a lot of shady things, participating in a lot of illegal activities. And they were able to give him structure with the sport of boxing. He became a world champion, and he was able to provide for his family and live a very comfortable lifestyle. Now, I got a question for everybody that's watching this video. And I'm gonna give you my opinion on it, but I got a question for you guys, and you can text it in the comment section what you think about this question. And you can answer this question. Is Kell Brook a Hall of Fame fighter? Now, my answer to that question is no. I don't believe he's a Hall of Fame fighter. He's had a good career, not a great career. His best win was against Shawn Porter. That fight took place in Carson, California. He became the IBF welterweight champion. Now, at that time, we had other champions in the welterweight division. Keith One-Time Thurman, he became unified welterweight champion. You had Floyd Mayweather Jr., who was the best fighter, #1 pound for pound during that time. Him and Manny Pacquiao, he was never able to get any of those fights that could have helped him secure a Hall of Fame career. You know, he's lost to Triple G. He also lost to Earl Spence Jr. So his 3 biggest fights, he lost 2 of the 3 biggest fights. Now, he'll beat Amir Khan. That was his last fight, but Amir Khan was a faded version of himself. He was the artist formerly known as a multi-division, multi-time world champion, as he was able to beat him from pillar to post, a one-sided beatdown, a fight that probably was 5 years past its expiration date. But it was a good win. It was able to allow him to ride off until sunset, going out on top, per se. So we will see what happens, and we will see what transpires. But, you know, also on his resume, you got wins over Carson Jones. He beat Sunchenko, Rambansky, but he just don't have a lot of great names on his resume. He's got 4 names on his resume, basically. You know, and one of them is a qualifier because, again, Amir Khan, at the time he fought him, was washed. His legs were gone. He was a shot fighter. And as we all know, Amir Khan is a guy that, when he was on top of his game, had a suspect chin. Ain't no suspect chin. He had a weak chin. He had a chandelier glass jaw. So you put that with the fact that his legs were gone at the time that he fought Kell Brook, he was just a knockout waiting to happen, and Kell Brook went in there and did what, if he had anything left in his gas tank, should have done, and that was stop Amir Khan. Let me know your thoughts about it, what you think about Kell Brook. You think he should be a Hall of Fame fighter? You know, Timothy Bradley, he's in the Hall of Fame, and I think his resume is better than Kell Brook. Now, you can compare his resume to Shawn Porter. Now, he beat Shawn Porter, but overall, Shawn Porter's resume is better than Kell Brook. And Shawn Porter is not a slam dunk to be inducted into the Boxing Hall of Fame. So if he's not a slam dunk, then at best, Kell Brook is a guy that's career and resume is on the fence as far as will he or won't he be inducted into the Boxing Hall of Fame. So we will see what happens, and we will see what transpires. But Kell Brook was a guy that when he was on the top of his game, he arguably had the best skill set and was one of the best technical boxers in the game. His skill set, if he would have had the right fights, would allow him to be a no doubt about it Hall of Fame fighter. But the resume just don't support that, in my humble opinion. Just don't have the wins, just don't have the scalps on the wall per se to lay claim to a Hall of Fame fighter. We will see what happens, and we will see what transpires. But let me know your thoughts about Kell Brook, man, in his career. What you think of him as a fighter. He never got the fights with the Keith Thurmans of the world or the Danny Garcias of the world, who were the top fighters at that time in and around his weight class. He never got those fights. He never got the fights with the creme de la creme of the welterweight division when he had the IBF title, Floyd Mayweather Jr. and Manny Pacquiao. He had a fight lined up with Jesse Vargas. That fight fell through. He ended up moving up 2 weight classes to take on Triple G. And we all know what happened in that fight. As he moved up 2 weight classes and got stopped, I believe it was inside 4 rounds or 5 rounds. He got a broken orbital bone, and in my opinion, wasn't quite never the same fighter after that fight. Now, he went back down and fought Errol Spence Jr. and defended his IBF belt. He was able to do good, according to the commentators, as they had him ahead early in that fight. I didn't think it was going down that way. I thought it was a very competitive fight. I had it even in the first half of the fight, but I thought the second half of the fight, Errol Spence Jr. took over, and he ultimately stopped Kell Brook and broke his other orbital bone. After that fight, he had a couple of fights against some nondescript fighters, and he basically wasn't mentioned with the top names in the welterweight division. Now, he moved up to 154 and had a couple of fights, I believe, or at a catchweight, or either at a catchweight or at 154, but those guys were not big names in the sport of boxing. And then he finally was able to secure a fight with WBO welterweight champion Terence Crawford. And he was doing some good things in that fight. Landing the jab, landing the straight right hand. And he was able to touch Terence Crawford up like not many opponents of Terence Crawford. But Terence Crawford made the adjustment, caught him with a shot he didn't see. He fell into the ropes, was badly hurt. And as we know, Terence Crawford is one of the best finishers in boxing, and he was able to close the show. So I forgot to mention Terence Crawford. So you put Terence Crawford, Errol Spence Jr., Triple G, and Shawn Porter. Those 4 big fights against big names, and he's 1-3 in those fights. That is not Hall of Fame worthy, ladies and gentlemen. Not to say that he's a mediocre fighter. He's a good fighter, had a good career, but the Hall of Fame is supposed to be for the greats, the great fighters, not the good fighters. The creme de la creme, not the B-level fighters, in my opinion. So we will see what happens, and we will see what transpires. Let me know your thoughts about that. And there's something I forgot to bring up as far as Kell Brook goes. Now, rumor had it that he was in negotiations to take on middleweight contender Chris Eubanks Jr. Now, Kell Brook in recent interview was saying that he was going to be the shot caller in the negotiation, that basically Eubanks Jr. had to bow down to his demands, that he's the A-side. He's the guy that's going to headline the fight. He's going to be the guy that's going to have the public interest at a peak, not Eubanks Jr. He's accomplished more in the sport of boxing than Eubanks Jr., and the fight would have to be on his terms. But from everything I was hearing, the fight was very close to happening. As basically, from what I was hearing, they were just dotting the I's and crossing the T's. Now, maybe at the 11th hour, Kell Brook decided, after conversations with his parents and family, to step away from the sport, but maybe I think the talks for that fight maybe broke down, and I don't think he saw any other fight that was going to get his blood flowing, water his appetite per se, get him motivated to go train, get up early in the morning, jog, and get in peak condition. He didn't see any other fight out there on the horizon that was going to get him the similar type of money that he got in the Amir Khan fight, that he decided to maybe hang up his gloves. But I do believe that his family played a strong part in ultimately making the decision for him to walk away from the sport. That's just my opinion. I just think that, and then I think a little bit part of it was that the negotiation between him and Eubanks Jr. broke down. I believe he probably broke down over weight. I think Eubanks probably wanted to fight closer to 160. Maybe he would have went down to 157, 158. I think Kell Brook probably wanted it at maybe like 154, maybe 155 at the highest. And I think that probably was the ultimate demise in that fight not getting finalized. And I think the money probably played a part too. I think Kell Brook probably wanted the split be like 70-30 or 80-20. And I think Kell Brook probably wanted it more like 55-45. Or he might even been asked for 50-50. So I think the money and the weight was the problem for that fight and the obstacles that prevented that fight from coming to fruition. Let me know your thoughts about Kell Brook and his career. Is it a Hall of Fame career? Text me in the comment section if you think he is a Hall of Fame fighter or if you think he's not a Hall of Fame fighter. Follow me on Twitter, JBsports 3303. Like, share, and subscribe to JB Sports. The man, the myth, the legend. And I holla.